burn my mouth on pizza. So I guess we can just go ahead and get going. Oh man. Alright. Welcome. Welcome one and all to the thing we're about to do, which is involving step 1. Go here. Step 2, I turn this up. Oh, it's already up. I know. Step 3, resetting. Yes. Personal records and logs will be not affected. Good. Check. Career. This is the thing. So we start from the beginning. So, generally, so if you're watching this for the first time, whenever you're watching, whether you're watching right now, or, you know, maybe you're watching this later, the career mode is the way forward. Right? This is the way that I feel like is the best place to begin and to learn the game, because it's going to slowly build you up to the faster stuff. So, not to say that you can't go do time trial, go do some other fun stuff, do some multiplayer, have fun. But this is the place. This is where I would begin. So, obviously, I have everything pretty much unlocked. So, you know, we're not going to kind of go through all that. But the general things that we need to be aware of, we're in class 1. So I need to make sure I have a class 1 chip. I go down to class 1. Right. So we have a few choices, right? So when you're first loading up, you get a choice of like, what vehicle do I want to choose? And for the general gameplay, if you're going from the perspective of, I just want to have fun, I want to learn this game, whatever you think is fun and the coolest, that will be the one you. If you're worried about the whole end game part of, oh, I want to be the very best like no one ever was, then your ship choice might matter, but that's only once you start getting towards those like really top times, and I'm talking like top 10, top 5 range, right? Those are where, you know, the half a second difference is going to make all the difference then. Until then, have fun, enjoy. So let's just run through the ship choices that we have, right? Because we have a number. And we can talk a little bit about each one. Kind of what I'll give you my kind of general take of like what we should pick, and maybe some good places to begin. And so we're going to start here. This is the ESA Vanguard. It's class 1, right? So ESA evolves looking kind of like this. Looks like this. Looks like this. But this is a different color scheme. So looking at class 1, as we look over at stats, right? It's got some of the highest acceleration in the game. It's got pretty good speed. Its grip's pretty good. A bit weak on the rest, though. Now, how does this play out, if you're kind of thinking? So, this is, like, I would say is one of the most middle ground ships. It is pretty well balanced overall, and it's generally not the best ship necessarily on any one particular track, but it can do all of them relatively well, I feel. So it's a good ship for if you were trying to just figure out the game. It handles really well. It definitely is pretty comfortable. The high acceleration definitely means that mistakes are less punished. So it really comes in well. It's not the weakest in structure, so, you know, if you're hitting the walls a lot, it's not going to completely explode right at the beginning, but it's a good starting one. Going down. Königsworth. I like this ship. I didn't like it at first, though. When I first look at this ship, I'm like, well, its acceleration is boopy. It's got pretty good speed. It's got really high grip, really high structure, and its energy pool, like, let's just compare it to the ESA. Well, it's got a better energy pool and a recharge speed. So when we're thinking about those two stats, this is a good place to kind of think about it. Energy pool is obviously, okay, how big is your energy bar, right? The size of it in game is not going to necessarily change, but what is going to be different is basically, if you can think about like the number, right? So if we say that ESA has a boost level of 100. Like there's 100 energy slots. Maybe Königsworth is like 120, right? It's slightly bigger. So in game, how that kind of plays out is as you're looking at it, the energy pool is bigger. The recharge would take longer if it had the same recharge rate as ESA, but it has a higher one. How it plays out is the boost, it takes just as long for the Königsworth's boost gauge to fill up as the ESA does. Just about. They're right about the same, especially once you get up here to class 4, right? So class 4, when you look again, look at the energy pool, look how high the recharge speed is. ESA, well, it's still got a pretty decent energy pool, right? It's pretty decent. But Königsworth has got that slightly bigger, and it's got that higher recharge speed, which ends up making it so they charge about the same. So the advantage that Königsworth might have over ESA is the fact that it's going to handle just a bit better. It's going to be a bit more survivable, and it's got a better boost gauge. So where boosting is a bit more preferable, Königsworth's probably going to be a bit better than ESA is. Now, obviously, its downside is acceleration, which I find makes it so that this actually, to do really well with it, you got to be a bit better with it, right? You got to have that bit more experience to get those kind of higher times. I always felt like, in my own personal play, you might experience with ESA, felt like I could get away with a lot and still get decent times, but Königsworth I couldn't. Now, I would look at this and be like, oh yes, Königsworth is probably what I should pick more often than not. But they're going to be about the same. So the two ships should give you relatively similar experience. Think about it as personal preference. Do you want more acceleration? Do you want a better boost gauge? They're going to play out just about the same. Königsworth is also just a little bit more survivable. Next, Sulha. So Sulha, and you got a lovely little pod racer. Look at him. So obviously, if you like Star Wars, this is the ship you pick. Just pick this. Have a nice day. Good luck. But let's look at its stats. Pretty good acceleration. Pretty dang good, max speed. Grip is very low. Structure is very low. But it's got a good energy pool, but a kind of low recharge speed. Let's compare it to Königsworth, right? It's got a higher energy pool. So if we look at the last two, right? Higher energy pool than Königsworth, but a lower recharge rate. It's got higher max speed than Königsworth and a higher acceleration. But the ESA has higher acceleration, better grip. So how does it play out when you play it? Well, when I first played with Sulha, it is a flying brick. It feels like a brick in a lot of ways. It doesn't handle very well. And it's also, you die rather quickly. It's kind of like a glass cannon, if you really think about it that way, right? High max speed, pretty dang good acceleration, very big energy pool. So its boost gauge feels like it charges very slowly, but it's very potent on the other end. So at the end of the day, what that makes is that Sulha is probably the best at pure races because it's got just the pure offensive or speed stats, right? Once you get a good handle on ships, Sulha is one of the fastest in the game. But it takes that bit of skill to make sure you can handle it well because it, again, look at its grip, right? It's a flying brick. Look at its structure, it dies easily. So, very powerful, very good. Slow, again, the boost gauge to me feels like it charges pretty slow. But you're going to get this powerful boosts. You're going to go pretty fast. So, I don't usually recommend it for a new player. But maybe once you kind of get a bit of the game under your belt, give this one a shot. You might be surprised. And we got the Conqueror. So looking at stats, man, its acceleration's not great, but boy, does it have high max speed. its grip is slightly higher than Sulha. Its structure is higher, so it's a bit more survivable. But its energy pool is tiny, and it has a just slightly higher recharge rate. So here's how this plays out when you experience it in game. Conqueror, it takes a good bit to get up to speed, has good max speed, but its boost is so abysmally poor, it doesn't really feel like it goes as fast as like Sulhan does. Now its grip is slightly better, but it always felt to me, I don't know, it feels like it might actually handle worse, but it just might be my playstyle. However, the combination, like you're looking at the stats, the combination of the low energy pool and the high recharge speed mean that your boost gauge appears to charge pretty quick. And on the onset without power-ups, I would believe that Conqueror will be able to fill up its boost gauge the most often. So once we get to power-ups, we're not going to talk about power-ups yet. Conqueror can use power-ups quite often, though it's not very potent, right? So its boost is not very strong, but you know, it's got a solid top speed. I feel like this is a difficult ship to do well with. I've seen some who do well with the ship. I am not one of those people usually, but it can definitely perform. I think it takes a bit of work to learn how to get used to it. Maybe your playstyle might fit better, and maybe you just enjoy it. Go for it. The Sarah. So if you're looking at Sarah's stats, decent acceleration. It's got about the same as Conqueror, but look at its max speed. Its max speed is abysmal. It is low. However, it's got a little bit better grip. It's a little bit weaker on the structure side, but boy, look at the energy pool and recharge speed. It has the highest in the game. Like if you go to class 4, it is max on both of those. Completely maxed out. So Sarah is very interesting in that I think it is the worst in pure races. But when it comes to having power-ups, it can start to compete, but you generally need a very specific setup. And that's something we can talk about later once we get to power-ups, then we can talk about those. If you like Big Boosty Boy, you may enjoy Sarah. It handles pretty well, it really does. It just struggles in the max speed department, and that can make it feel a bit slow on straightaways where you don't have your big boost going or anything like that. But it could be a fun ship, and there's definitely a number of people who really love the ship. I really liked it too when I first started playing, so it's definitely a fun ship, I would say. But to make it perform at the level of some of the other top ships, it takes more work. So you can definitely make it though. But again, you'll want a very specific setup with it once we get there. We got Lunar. So if you got to put up your Italian hands here, you got to say it a certain way. But Lunar is a very good ship, honestly. Look at its stats. High acceleration, high max speed, high grip, low structure, low energy, low recharge. So Lunar is a good ship, and is another one that I would recommend for beginners. Lunar, because it doesn't rely as much on good boosting, because it has the high acceleration and max speed already. It has good grip, so it handles really well as well. Also, pretty close to Königsworth. Let me see. What's Königs? Yeah, they're pretty close in grip. Königsworth and Lunar. So both handle really well. The issues with Lunar is it's made out of paper, kind of like Sulha is. Right? Sulha's a little bit weaker, but Lunar is also just made out of paper. And then again, low energy pool, low recharge speed, which plays out in the gauge maxes out quickly, but the boost isn't as powerful. So You'll be able to boost more often, you'll feel like, but again, not as powerful feeling as, say, a Sulha or a Sarah's boost does. So, again, I think this is a great starter ship to use. So if you're just first playing, this is where I'd start. This is another one, or ESA is usually what I recommend. So, pretty good. If you're struggling with the structure, like if you're hitting walls and you're dying on some stuff, then maybe you want to check out something else. But still pretty good starter ship, and it still performs well, even on higher end. So I think it's just a good ship overall. Then we got your vodka-powered monster. This is the Baran. If you enjoy vodka, this is the ship for you, obviously. But, so looking at stats. Acceleration's kind of meh. Speed's kind of okay. Its grip is pretty good. Structure is pretty solid. Got a pretty decent energy pool, but a low recharge speed. So, how does the Baran play out? Well, it ends up feeling like a slower Sulha. Its boost gauge recharges about the same rate, but its boost is not as powerful. It's also not as fast, and it doesn't accelerate as well. Now, it turns better. That's absolutely sure. It also survives a little bit better. It's got a better structure. So, it's probably in the same range as Sulha. Again, if you kind of want to take a step up before using Sulha, this is a good one to use. I would think, because it plays kind of similarly, just it handles a bit better. So it's a ship that honestly kind of disappoints at the end game, but that shouldn't stop you if you enjoy it, right? You can make this thing go. You can make this thing work. You can still. It might take some work, like say a Conqueror or more than a Conqueror or a Sarah fight with specific setups, but you can definitely make this thing go, do some good times with it, and make it happen. So, not generally one I would recommend for beginners, but it's the Baran. That's it. There's our ships. So, here's what we're going to do. Because this is the first one, I'm going to randomly decide which ship I'm going to use, and that's what we're going to use to start. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, ready, set, 5 is what I got. So what is ship 5? So I'll start as ESA. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're using a Sarah today. All right, so a few things that we want to talk about. Suppose we decided this is going to be our ship. We're going to be starting with the Sarah. So normally, like I have everything upgraded. You'll see that if I press my X button, or for me, I'm using a PlayStation controller, so this is square. It brings us over to here, and there's some upgrades. So you won't be able to do these right at the start, but you will get money. You'll be able to buy some of these upgrades, and you'll want to do them for each class because they do help a good bit in making events a bit easier, or to get better times. You'll definitely want to do these. So my general thought is turbine is, go fast. You'll probably want to do this first. And then after that, it's probably up to you what you feel like you might need. And once you unlock it, it's unlocked for that ship, for that class. So don't worry too much. Money is pretty easy to come by in the game as you play more. Just get more. You'll get contracts and things like that will ask you to use specific ships, and sometimes those will unlock a ship for free for you, or unlock a power-up for free for you. We won't see any of those here because I've already done them, and it won't bring them up for me. But you can unlock those, get those, and Again, I would do 2 Brian first, and then after that, your choice, I think. Whatever you feel like you need. Other thing you might want to see, if you look here on the bottom left, again, choose ship colors. So I'm going to press down on my right stick. And we have either color sets or liveries. So we're starting on the stock version. So, you know, we can scroll through, see different color sets that we want. We can also see those in different liveries that we have unlocked, whatever it might look like. So, also a thing to keep in mind, if you're on the stock color set, or the Acera, like here it's the Acera color set, change liveries, it gives you kind of like unique ones, like unique color sets and looks for different ones. So kind of go through those, see what you might like. We're going to do, I like to do Templar. For Acera, I like Templar, and I like ratio color. But as you play the game, you'll unlock more, get more. So, starting. Alright, so class 1, pure time attack. Power-ups won't matter in this. We're not going to worry about that. We're just going to go ahead, we're going to start. So we have our chosen ship. We're beginning. We're going. I have my controller down here in the bottom left, right? So you can see all the stuff I'm doing. And we're gonna go. I think it's gonna give me all this stuff, right? So, oh, not giving me. So left stick is all right. Here we go. They give it to me. Right. So, right. Just so as I'm talking, right. So left stick is turning. Right. You see that? Right stick. Strafing. So this is looking what strafing's doing, right? It's moving me back and forth along the track. The general idea that you want to do, like take a notice of the sticks, right? Because I'm just kind of going through this lap. I am going to basically barely use my left stick. I want to use my left stick as little as possible in most cases. I want to rely on the right stick. So here we can pitch, right? So we're going in a slope pitch, so we don't grind. But generally, I'm going to want to, first thing you want to kind of get used to is this idea of strafing. You want to try and make sure you're like strafing more often than you're using the turning. Think about it this way. You want to turn just enough so that you face the direction you want to go, and then you strafe after. Right? So I'm just kind of vibing through, just kind of going through, right? Getting used to this idea. And obviously, if you can make it close to turns, that's a good thing. Think about racing lines. If you ever watched things like F1, think about how they turn. So we want to kind of cut, you know, doing our best to cut through corners, turn as little as possible. Always the general goal. So strafing can help us do that, because what I can do, and we'll see like here, is I can kind of strafe one way to avoid it. And then look, I'm facing a wall, I strafe, I grip a little bit, but I can use strafing to avoid. So now what we're going to do, we're going to actually use boost. I'm going to go and get a good lap here. So boosting, how do we want to boost? Well, we want to boost is on straightaways. When we're in pure, it's helpful to boost out of turns to try and get us up to speed a little bit faster. So, going straight, we're going to just hit boost. Especially with something like Acera. Acera relies on its boost. So you want to use that bad boy. If you feel like, if you're going to go straight for a while, slam that boost down, right? But generally, boosting out of like sharp turns or into straights, both are good things. And then, so here, near the end, whenever you're coming to like an end, this is a little tech thing. Don't worry too much about it. Get used to it. Just you want to use up as much boost as you can. And there we go. We finished. That was our first event. So we got kind of a general idea. I got a platinum medal. Nice. So I think we can kind of talk about, right? You finish your first event. Obviously, when you saw it had gold, silver, bronze. You're going to be able to get any of those based on those times, right? You beat those times. But for any sort of time attack, or basically any race that only has you on the track, there's a hidden platinum. So you can see here, I have platinum. 53.629 was the time I needed to beat. I got 52.2. So, it's a hidden thing. I wouldn't worry too much on your first playthrough. First playthrough, just get through the game. Try and get golds. This is usually what I would say. Try and get golds. If you're feeling adventurous, go for those platinums on time attacks, I would say. Go for those platinums on time attacks. Now here, got our second event. So, pure race. So again, pure means no power-ups. We're not going to worry about power-ups yet. And now we're going to race against the AI a little bit. So we're going to implement what we learned. And so, again, as we're going into this, things that we want to keep in mind. The AI does not have a leashing mechanic. It only can do what the player can do. So, you don't need to worry about, like, you know, if you've ever played Mario Kart, where you're like way out ahead and then suddenly Bowser catches up to you. And you're like, how did Bowser catch up to me? Right? It doesn't have that mechanic. So, here, we're just racing. Don't have to worry. I like to use a little bit of boost at the start and to get ahead of the AI. Because the AI can, like, run into you. You can run into the AI. And that can cause you a little bit of problems, a little bit of headache. But getting ahead of the AI generally helps. Because once you get going, you know, then you can just kind of do your thing. And you don't have to worry, right? We're strafing as little as possible. Right, look, again, I want you to just pay attention to my sticks. Right, I'm using my pitch, but look how little I am using the left stick. Very little. There'll be a few cases we'll see later of when I use the stick a lot, but in general, I am very lightly using the stick. So now we're gonna finish our race. Feel good about ourselves. Because look how far ahead we are. Good. And we're just implementing the mechanics that we said, right? We are using the left stick very lightly. We are using the right stick the most to help us, like, navigate the track. And that's something you can also think about and kind of put in your head. Think about how if I see a turn, right, so this turn coming up that we'll see here, right, I want to get right, and I'm going to go left to go into the turn. How did I do that? I used the right stick. It wasn't about me using the left stick to, like, turn right and then turn back left. I just used the right stick to put me in the correct position.
Congratulations.
So I'm not having to worry too much about left stick. The right stick can do the job. I'm gonna be destroying the AI pretty much every time. Don't even have to worry about it. Alright. So let's go into our next event. So we got a different track, right? So a lot of your first events will be in the kind of Cairo biome and the Cairo complex, as it's called in game. And that's a good thing because, you know, it'll give you some just intro into different things that are going on. Like here, take a look. We're seeing the intro part. This is our first jump. Right, this is the first jump that we see in the game. So we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that. So we're saying we got some, like, hills. So a few things that we can think about going into this track. We learned about pitching and how we can pitch up and down to try and not grind the track. That's generally the thing we want to do most of the time. We want to try our best to not grind the track. So as we get into these kind of hilly sections on this track, this is where we can start to implement that. So if you're having a hard time with it still, it's not a problem. right? Take your practice. I would focus more on strafing, right? I don't know if you just saw that. Like, okay. The thing I want you to pay attention to as I go through this lap for a second, as we talked about a little bit, there's a lot of these turns. I'm going to use the right stick to position myself for a turn before I turn. Now, if you saw there, I bounced against the wall. You're thinking, oh, bouncing against the wall, that's bad. Well, here's the real answer. It depends. So in a game like this, you're going very fast. You want to go fast as you can. You want to be the fastest you can be. Sometimes bouncing the wall happens. Here's our jump. Look at it, we jump. Simple. I go left and turn into it. Now again, I'm boosting out of turns. A little bit. Using bigger boosts on bigger straightaways. Light bounces. And so that's going to be the thing that we want to try and do about that bouncing thing. So we'll talk a bit more about it later, once we get a bit faster, like higher class, different tracks. So right now we're just learning the basics. So we got this jump. So for jumps, generally, you want to go as far as you can, if you can, but it depends. Again, it depends. Right now, most jumps that we're going to see, we're going to try and go farther, but we don't want to like pitch too much upwards and lose speed. So what you're going to see I'm going to do is I'm not really going to pitch that much because I don't want to lose too much speed on this jump coming up here. So the general rule is this. If you're falling downwards, go far. If you're falling upwards, go short. Here, we're falling downwards. We're going to go a little bit far. And then using my boost gauge to kind of help me stay in the air, I can do that. That's an option. Better on pure. Not necessarily something else. I just set a new record on this track. Is that what just happened? I didn't hear it. I was talking. And now it's not showing me that. Hold on. I gotta go look now. I just set a new record for myself? Huh. Neat. I sure did. Maybe I should do this track a bit more. Alright. But, alright. So, we have another different track here. Another pure race, 2 laps. So, Chem Sim is a track that has a lot of different turns. And it's got some sharp turns. And this is a place where we can talk about this idea of what's called wall bounce. So I mentioned a little bit before that sometimes hitting the wall is okay. It happens. And it's probably expected. So in Chem Sim, there's a number of these turns. And if we bounce on the wall, it's actually okay. What we want to do, though, is we want to bounce on the wall the correct way. And the idea of correct way is minimal contact. If you grind the wall, that's bad. But if you just kind of hit the wall once, that's okay. The general rule I kind of heard before, and what you might want to try and do is try and hit the wall with like the back end of the ship. And that's going to give you good bounce. So what that will do is it'll minimize the amount of speed lost because we've minimized the contact against the wall. So, but you don't want to like overturn too much, so it can be a little difficult. But it's something that we're going to see. So, okay, see that little squiggle, that like little S? So you look at that, you're like, oh, it's turning left and right. This is where the power of strafing comes in. The general rule of Redout is, if I can go straight, I'm going to go straight. I want to see if I can go straight through that little part right there. So pay attention.
3, 2, 1.
Alright, so again, I'm going to boost off the line so I can get ahead of everybody. But look, I'm just going straight through that part. There's a little bounce. See that? That was a wall bounce. Where I just tapped the wall with the edge of my ship. Like back end of it. So here, we'll tap. So I'm using that. We'll tap. So we're coming up to a very sharp turn. So So what we're going to do is we're going to come out like this. We're going to swing the ship around. So what the heck did I do right now? So here's the idea. Let's talk about turning. What am I doing to make these turns so good? Because you're thinking, oh, well, shouldn't I just go like both sticks, same direction? Not necessarily. You can. But generally, and here's the thing you're going to see. I want you to pay attention to this turn coming up, this like sharp turn. I'm going to strafe to the other direction of the turn and then strafe into the turn. And that's going to swing my ship. So the general idea and the concept you want to think of
Congratulations.
when it comes to turns
Gold medal awarded.
is, so if you watch my stick here, so suppose we have that left turn, right? This left turn's coming up. What I want to do as I'm starting to turn is I'm going to be like turning into it with my left stick. But at the start, I'm going to put my right stick, my strafe, the other direction. Like this. And then as I go through the turn, I'm going to shift to the other side. Here. Go like that. So when do I switch? Usually at the apex of the turn, but as you go through the game, you'll start to get a feel for when to do that. But this is the general idea. So again, if I'm turning left, I want to go strafe opposite direction and then into the turn. So if I'm going right, I'm going to strafe opposite direction and then into the turn. That's the general idea. Again, you'll practice, you'll get a feel for it. Okay, so now we have a different event type, and this is a last man standing. So last man standing is an event type where you, again, race against the AI, and whoever is in last place when a lap is completed is eliminated. They're just destroyed. So don't be in last, right? But this is also the first event where we can have a power-up. So this is a perfect time to talk about power-ups. Let's go over to power-ups. So in Redout, we have two types of power-ups. We have active, and we have passives. So the general active power-up you're going to want is the turbo boost. This is your bread and butter. If you're going to unlock any power-up, it should be this one first. Now on the passive side, we do have a few options, and again, it's going to kind of depend on your ship choice a little bit, and also track. Now in Class 1, you probably can get away with certain ones, and we'll talk about which ones that you want to focus on, which ones you want to do. So the number one power-up that I would recommend for most ships is the augmented propeller here. So the augmented propeller supercharges your engines, granting a max speed and acceleration boost. So we will go faster and we'll get up to top speed faster. It's almost a no-brainer. The second power-up that I look at are these. The magnetic stabilizer increases grip through an additional stabilization system, reducing drift. So as you kind of saw with how I was turning before, right? I was kind of drifting, right? I was drifting a little bit into corners. That's what I was doing when I was moving. You know, if I was turning left, and then I put my stick out, and then into the turn, right? That is helping me to drift into the corner a bit. The magnetic stabilizer kind of does away with that, or at least reduces that effect. So you still do a similar thing when you're turning with it, but you don't necessarily need to as much. It's going to make your ship handle a lot more like a regular racing game, I feel. A lot more like those. The third power-up, and this is probably in order, 1, 2, 3, I would say, is the overloaded energy turbine. More efficient turbine increases your recharge rate and improves your turbo boost. If you are playing an Acera, this is the one you want to pick. You want this power up if you are playing the Acera. For most other ships, you're going to want the augmented propeller. Now you can use the Acera and the augmented propeller, if that's what you choose. But the Acera benefits more from the overloaded energy turbine. So it would be a better choice for that ship in particular. Pretty much across the board. If you're using Acera, this is the power-up that's better in the long run. But again, you can still use augmented. Now maybe you're wondering, well, when do I use magnetic stabilizers? Magnetic stabilizers are used on tracks where they're very twisty, a lot of hard turns, or this is the power-up you should go for if you're having trouble surviving. In Class 1, generally, if you're feeling comfortable, you don't need magnetic stabilizers. But as you get faster, you will want them for certain tracks for sure. So right now, because we are an Acera, we're going to choose the overloaded energy turbine. We are Class 1. We don't really need magnetic stabilizers. So we're going to just go ahead and use this. Now again, if you're still struggling with turns, it's okay to use magnetic stabilizers. But you also, as you progress, you want to kind of like wean yourself off them, if that makes sense. Again, you'll find there will be certain tracks that magnetic stabilizers are preferable. All three power-ups find their uses in the game on different tracks. All three of those. So whichever one you end up with, you're going to end up getting all three eventually, because you'll want all three eventually, depending on what track there is. As we get there, we'll talk about like, okay, what power-ups am I using? Again, Class 1 doesn't really matter. But as we get to Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, power-up choice is going to matter a lot more. So, let's go last man standing. So again, we got 4 laps. We're going to go as fast as we can. And okay, so we just want to win. Look at that boost. So you can see I have these. So now this is a good time to talk about the active power up. Now it's the active power up. You can see I went pretty fast. That is turbo boost. So this brings in a new mechanic a little bit. Because I want to use this turbo boost at the right places. And that might take a little bit of kind of trial and error for you to figure out, oh, where should I use this? When should I use this? But generally, the more turbo boosts that you can successfully fit in without just like completely ruining yourself, the better. So there are some places I didn't want to do it. This is a long straightaway. I want to do it. So each ship has a different recharge rate, as we mentioned. And the turbo boost is the reason why for Acera you want to use the overloaded energy turbine. So remember, Acera has the highest boost gauge, the highest recharge rate. Oh, neat. So it means he gets the best. And well, the overloaded energy turbine just makes those that much better. So why not improve that? But this is where your chosen ship, you want to get a feel for, okay, how long does it take to recharge? Because as you're seeing, right, I'm using turbo all the time now, right? I'm pretty much using it near exclusively, right? So more turbos generally more better. But again, so like, just a quick example. I don't want to turbo like this, because I'm just like slamming into the wall, right? That's not helpful. I want to turbo where I can get some use out of it, and then turn properly at the next turn. I.e., when I mean turn properly, I mean not slam into my face directly into the wall. So, just to recap, right? Turbo boosting is probably the more important thing. And it's generally kind of what you are centering yourself around on a lot of tracks. How often can I turbo? When should I turbo? When can I get the most effect out of it? And as you do tracks, you'll learn when to do it. So you might remember we had a little talk about how boosting, you should like boost out of turns and stuff like that. Well, turbo changes that a little bit because there might come a place where, well, I want to turbo in a very particular spot. So maybe I don't want to boost. I want to turbo soon. And again, that will take some play of, well, can I turbo here? Can I boost here? Should I boost here? Should I turbo here? Because it's all about that kind of like learning, like, oh, this will be good, or this was not good. And that's something, you know, don't be afraid to experiment. Try. Boost yourself straight into a wall. So here we're going into a new complex. We're going to Alaska. So Alaska, generally pretty tight turns in a lot of places. I think it's one of the more deadly places. And I feel like it's a bit of a steep increase once you get to some of the Alaska tracks. Speedway is not bad. But also look, we're doing time attack. Time attack means we can use power-ups. So we're going to want to make the most out of our turbo boost here. So this is something I did automatically on the first time attacks, but I did not talk about here. Generally in a time attack, you want to try and make sure you get the absolute best time. What you're going to want to do is have a hot lap. What does that mean? A hot lap is the idea that I'm going to try and save my boost gauge for the start of a track. And whether I then turbo or I just regular boost, depends on the track. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turbo right near the start line. I'm going to turbo right here. And you can see, so I'm starting this lap with a turbo, right? So I'm starting with a lot higher speed, and that will help you to get some of these like better times. So one thing that you see that I just did here, this is because I'm in a Sarah. Because I'm a Sarah with an overloaded engine turbo. I was like tapping my boost gauge. And this is something I'm going to do here. Part of the hot lap, right? I want to use all my boost. I want to leave it all out. And so there we go. We set a 36.3. Pretty good time. So if you're struggling to get the like gold time, or if you're trying to push for that platinum, I'm going to try and do a hot lap. Because that will most likely get you to that place. I think I didn't quite finish my thought. So here, I'm going to do that thing, right? I'm going to turbo. And now I'm going to just like, I'm tapping my boost, right? Look how much, I'm just like slamming that. But I'm doing that because I don't expect to turbo it. I want to use all the boost gauge I can. And if I continually use the boost like that, I'm going to maintain a higher speed for longer. So generally, when you turbo, you go like way above your maximum. And then you slowly begin to go back down to your normal top speed, whatever that is, depending on your ship. So by boosting continually, we're always slowing that decay down. And you want to do that when you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to be turboing for a bit, or I don't need to do it, or I I don't need it for like coming out of a turn or something like that. So usually at the end of a lap. So if you know that like, oh, I'm not going to be using this super, that's what we're going to do. All right. Got ourselves a pure time attack again. We're going to just chill on out. And so we're back at the camp sim. So you may be wondering, you remember this track, right? This is the track with that really sharp left turn at the end. Hey, when do you brake?
3, 2,
You notice I used the brake slightly on Speedway for one particular part. Well, when do I brake? The answer is rarely ever. There are very few places you want to brake. Now that turn on Cam Sim, this is the very last turn we'll get to. It's probably one. Because here's a general, right? As we talked about, wall bounces. Shouldn't be afraid of this. But I don't want to like slam into the wall, right? So I could use the brake right there to like help me turn just a little bit. But if anytime you're using the brake, you're not slamming the brake, you are tapping the brake very lightly, and you're using the brake in such a way that it's going to help turn. That is purely the objective of it. You do not brake often, if at all, and you generally want to avoid using the brake. So like here, I don't think I'm going to use it because I don't feel like I need it because I'm in class 1. But new record, neat. But if you feel like you need to use the brake, use it lightly, very lightly. You don't need much, because if you brake and turn, you'll very quickly turn in a direction. So you don't need much. Who is this noob? I don't know, Striker. Who is this noob? Don't even know how to use the brake. I know, right? It's a strange and foreign button.
Congratulations. Platinum medal awarded.
So, Striker with his advanced guides, me with now the beginner's guide. Look at this. The other end of the spectrum. So, all right, let's see. Okay, we are going to continue on. Let's do this. So we've used the Acera for a bit. Let's use something different, just to get it going. And I'm gonna re-roll, see what I get. 1. Ah, we're on to ESA. Do debris trophy. Striker, this is a. Excuse me, sir. This is a stream for people to learn how to play the game. We're going straight through the career mode. We'll get there eventually. We'll get there. You know, in a couple weeks. Alright, so I rolled 1 for using ESA. So thing to keep in mind with ESA, right? Turns pretty well. Remember, we were just using Acera with the overload engine turbine. Our turbo's not going to come back nearly as quickly, but ESA has a higher top speed, so it's generally going to do better in that regard. And again, we're going to want to plan our turbos.
3,
So
2, 1, go.
again, I like to boost just to get ahead, and we're just doing the same thing we were doing before, right? So here I know I have a long straightaway, a turbo. Right? If you're learning tracks, then, you know, you might just want to do a lap learning what's going on first before you just slam a turbo, right? So something you may be noticing with this track, though, is that there was this like really blind turn. So like watch, right? We're going to come up here, we're going to turn, right? Here, I have no idea what's coming, right? There's a guy going down and suddenly, oh, we're turned. Right? This is just this absolute blind turn. Right here too, right? There's pretty blind right into that. Games like this, that's a common occurrence. And it's just a matter of learning the track and learning what's coming, learning what's going to be happening. One thing I think you're probably seeing, do your tutorial in a British accent? Oh no. I don't know if I can, so I could probably do a very, very bad British accent, but I feel like that would not go over very well because I would completely mess it up very quickly. So I don't think that's my problem. I can't like teach and do funny accents. Just thanks, God. I don't know why. Why don't just pretend it's D&D? Ah, of course, you're right. My fault. Oh man. All right. So here now we have a different event type with speed. Speed is it's more about completing, not necessarily completing the lap as quick as possible, but maintaining a certain speed as much as possible. I want to see where the AI finished. But in speed, we're going to try and maintain a speed as much as possible. So that's the overall goal. So in class 1 and like class 2, we'll obviously want to use turbo. The augmented propeller is pretty good for that too. Once you get to like class 4, magnetic stabilizers are actually really good for speed events because it helps you to go through turns at a higher speed, which means you can get back over the speed you need to be to get like whatever medal time you want. So let's just go in and see what's going on. But we're going to do kind of the same thing. We're going to do this like hot lap to try and get the best time possible. So we still want to complete the track as fast as we can. But the important thing is
3, 2,
maintaining the speed. So take a look in the top left. You can see there is a time bonus and a target speed. When I'm above the target speed, the time bonus increases. If I'm below it, it does not. So that means that for a speed track, it is possible to get a negative time. No, Striker, I cannot set the return no world record right now. We're doing our playthrough. Also, going faster is also more better. So here we go. We're going fast. We want to try and get over our speed. Turboing in the right places. And again, I'm going to use all my boost gauge to try and get it the best time possible. There we go. Look. So 2 seconds. 2 seconds, 9 tenths. Okay, gotta use my tips to set world record. Alright, Striker. See ya. So, just again, trying to maximize speed. Speed is a really weird event. I don't ever feel like I'm very good at it. At least not compared to other events. But it's just kind of strange. Because you're thinking about the game like in a different way. You're thinking about like maximizing your speed. Like, look, okay, look, I only got a gold medal, right? So I have gotten with a Sarah AP even. Huh, interesting. let's try again. Let's see if we can get the platinum on this. So I know I need to get like a 1 second. Let's try to get platinum. So again, speed's weird, man.
1, go.
Because you're doing a very particular thing. And it's more important to maintain a certain speed than it is to like just, oh, I'm going to go super fast through this track. So you might not do things that are generally not optimal. Alright, so we're going to do a lap again, try and do this right. Let's just focus up and do our best. I don't actually feel good about that. We're gonna. So I don't care about. I'm gonna just. Oh, I said it 1 second still. I didn't feel good about it. Apparently, it was really good. I mean, what do you know? Shows what I know about speed. And I'm just trying to get over to top speed. Let's see if I got it.
Congratulations.
There we go.
Platinum medal awarded.
Yeah, oh, I was actually really close before. It was 2-7. I was like 2-9 before. Okay. Pure time attack. So now we're kind of just going back through the cycles, doing the same things. So again, Alaska can be a bit deadly. Class 1, I feel like you should be able to navigate pretty fine. If you're starting to have troubles where you're like, okay, I am not surviving. Two things. If you have power-ups, this might be a place where you want to use the magnetic stabilizers, because that'll help you navigate the track a little bit better. Second is, if it's a pure, maybe you want to consider using something with like a grip, like ESA, or even Königsworth. Because the Königsworth has that high structure. So those will be like the recommendations I have. We're gonna set a hot lap here. One thing I'll say also is, if you're trying to get platinums, on pure, if you're using an Acera, you might be having a hard time. It's because Acera really struggles in pure. So it might be worth it to try a different ship for pures if you're trying to go for platinums. You should be able to get golds, no problem. But if you're struggling to get a platinum, try a different ship. Additional recommendation I have. Go. It's been a while since I've done all these. I'm saying new records on whatever ship I'm using. Except for on speed, apparently. Speed's a thing. Anyways, so how's it going? How we doing? We're just trying to finish. If you're watching this now or later, maybe you can let me know, hey, what your favorite ship is. So, if you have a favorite ship, let me know. I would love to know what your favorite is. So that'd be cool. Also, I would really love is so if you have a ship that you so in the future of this series, if you have a ship that you would like me to use, let me know. I'd love to use that ship and to just do what I can with it, do my best, and to show you how it plays. Whatever else, we're going to continue using ESA here for a bit. It is. We've been going for about an hour, so let's see. Where are we at? So, we're in the last of Class 1 event. So we're about to be going to Class 2. This will be a good time to switch ships after this. That's what we'll switch to a different one after this event. But we have the Desert Heat Cup. So the Desert Heat Cup is a tournament, and we have 3 tracks. So one of them is definitely one that we haven't done before. If you see the one that's coming up in the picture with the like Sphinx, that is Cairo Ghibli, so a bit different. And so in a tournament, you're gonna do however many events back to back to back. So you won't be able to have a chance to either switch ships, you won't have a chance to switch power-ups. So if you want to try and use a power-up setup that you feel comfortable with for all the tracks involved. Now, it doesn't tell you, like, okay, here are the tracks. Here's what their names are. It just shows you the pictures. So you need to recognize that way what they might be. If you're not sure what a track is, that's okay. Generally, if I am not sure about tracks, this might be a place where I might just slap onto magnetic stabilizers. I did that a lot my first playthrough, where I would go in and I'd be like, okay, you know what? I'm not sure what this track is. But it's an Alaska track, for example. I'm just going to put on the magnetic stabilizers to be safe. But you can also be like me, and we can just go like this, go low. Alright, so we got ourselves a couple of races. We're going to apply everything that we've learned. So again, just to kind of recap a few things. So we want to strafe more than we turn, right? Less turning, more strafing. Not as much left stick, more right stick. We want to turbo as much as we can, but we want to turbo well. So we want to turbo down long straightaways, if we can do that. We want to plan for when we might want to do those. It helps to kind of be a bit more aware of our ship in those cases. When we're turning, we want to first strafe out of the turn, or like away from it, and then strafe back into the turn, about the apex. But you'll always kind of do that general thing. You start outside and then go inside. So let's try and apply all of those.
3, 2, 1, go.
So again, we're going to start by. I'm just going to boost. I want to get ahead of her. But here, I got a long straight, I know, somewhere in the turbo. So here, that was a good turbo because I knew I could turn through that turn as well. So here, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to turbo here because now I got this long straight. Thing that you might see, right? There's that turn, like slight turn. I barely touched my stick. Barely touched the left stick. Relied on strafing. Strafing is what you want to do more of. Strafe more, turn less. I'm generally just turning until I face the direction I want to be. And then here I'm just strafing to help my position myself. There we go.
Congratulations.
Gold medal awarded. I did this for Striker, but he's not here, so. Alright, Simoom, right? We did this track. 2 laps.
2, 1, go.
Boosting, make sure I stay ahead. Turning. Using the strafe to position myself for turns. Turboing on straightaways. Right? Knowing when the turbo comes with a lot of track knowledge. So one thing also about turbos, generally when you turbo, you want to make sure that you're not in the middle of a turn. You want to like aim yourself, you want to be pointing a certain direction. Because if you turbo at a weird place or a weird timing, it's not going to have near the effect. Think about it this way, right? If you're turning, you're slowing down. And turboing makes you speed up. Well, they end up kind of offsetting each other, and that's not what you want. You want to be maximizing your speed on those straightaways if you can do that. So like here. There, I turboed in such a way that I kind of cut the corner a little bit. But I also did it so that I could have this turbo here. Now I'm just boosting to the end. Go.
Congratulations. Gold medal awarded.
Right. Last one. So Ghibli. Ghibli's a new track. So Ghibli has two jumps, one small, one big. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do Ghibli in 2 ways. So Ghibli is one of the first tracks that you run into that has a skip in it that is possible. And for me, when I first did this track, I thought it kind of dawned on me what I could do, just because of the concept that we talked about before. Remember the idea, if I'm falling downwards, I want to jump as far as possible. Also, I want to be able to go as straight as possible. So I'm going to do this kind of normal the first time, and then I'm going to apply that idea to perform some kind of like skipping. So this is a bit more of an advanced thing. If you're not comfortable doing the more advanced tactics, don't worry about it. You don't need it. Not until you want to set like really high end times.
3,
So
2,
we're going to go in.
1, go.
Again, boosting a little bit to make sure I'm ahead. And again, applying same concepts. Hey look, I need to pitch. Pitch. Straight pitch. So here, I'm boosting here because I know I want to use turbo in a bit. I know I wanted to use it here. A bit better of a straightaway. Pitch. Turn. Here comes our first jump. Just gonna go up. Daisy. Down. I finish turning, I turbo. Here comes the big jump. I want to do this normally. I want to use the, if you can see what I was thinking before. Just gonna jump, and I land. Right? Well, remember what I talked about. Remember how I talked about the idea that, oh, if I can jump farther, jump farther. So the question you want to ask yourself is, well, how far can I jump on that jump? And how far can I jump on this jump coming up? So, right, all we're doing is we're taking those basic concepts and applying them. So, like this, watch. I pitch up a little bit, look how far I can fly. And I just landed there. So what I did is I went as far as I could, and I used that to skip part of the turn so I could go more straight. Like this, look. I fly as far as I can. I avoided all of that like up and down. I avoided part of the turn. Now, that's counterbalanced with a couple things. I don't want to pitch up, like I don't want to aim my ship up too much. So in the air, you can pitch upwards to kind of like help yourself to stay in the air a bit longer. You can pitch downwards to like go down sooner, right? You have some pretty good control in the air. air. You can also, things you can do is you can turn your ship in the air. You can also strafe in the air. So all those things still apply, they're just a bit amplified. So Ghibli is a great place to kind of be like, all right, this is like the culmination of a lot of different things. So, and now we're on to class 2. We're on to class 2. So, hopefully this has been helpful so far. Hopefully this has been good. I think we'll go ahead and make this the kind of capstone of this first section. So, this is the end of part 1. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful. Definitely, if you have questions about things I did, questions about mechanics, or anything that you're like, hey, what was this? Let me know. And again, let's just recap the major points. Turn less, strafe more. When you're turning, strafe out and then in. And then a little bit of pitching, right? A little bit of talking about that. And for jumps, you want, if you're falling down, go far. If you're falling upwards, which we'll get to eventually, you're wondering, well, where am I going to fall upwards? You'll see. Then you want to land as soon as you can. That's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. GG's.